Hello and welcome. This is your global news update for Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. We're tracking several major developing stories today, from new geopolitical fractures to rising domestic tensions and some pretty stark environmental warmings. First up, we're diving into the really divided international reaction to a new US-led peace initiative aimed at the Middle East. It's causing quite a stir. Then, we're heading to the United States, where a fatal shooting by federal agents in Minnesota has sparked widespread protests and, some serious accusations of a cover-up. And later on, we've got a sobering warning from the United Nations about a worldwide water crisis that could, frankly, reshape the lives of billions of people. Okay, let's get right into our top story, the brand new Board of Peace. This thing was officially launched just this month at the World Economic Forum in Davos, with President Trump signing the charter. Now, its stated goal is, well, it's incredibly ambitious, to create a whole new framework to finally end the war in Gaza. Now, this isn't just some standalone U.S. idea. It does have a bit of international weight behind it. It actually follows UN Security Council Resolution 2803, which welcomed the plan. So the idea here is to build a completely new foundation for peace. But as we're about to see, that official welcome has definitely not translated into global unity. No, not even close. In fact, the global response has created some pretty clear divisions. You've got nations like Argentina, Albania, and the UAE who are all in. They've signed on. But some of America's oldest allies are pushing back hard. France has flat out refused to join. Portugal is expressing some serious doubts. And Canada, well, Canada was apparently invited and then disinvited, which tells you there's some major diplomatic drama going on behind the scenes. And the U.S. response to France's refusal has been, let's just say, forceful. President Trump is now threatening to slap 200% tariffs on French wine if Paris doesn't change its mind. This move basically turns a diplomatic spat into a potential trade war, and it really raises the stakes for any other country that's still on the fence. And the criticism is getting sharper than just refusal. We're hearing from prominent international figures, like the former Irish President Mary Robinson, who have absolutely slammed the initiative. She's calling it a delusion of power, which shows you that critics are questioning not just whether it will work, but the actual motives behind the whole thing. Okay, let's shift gears now and head to the United States, where tensions are really hitting a boiling point in Minneapolis. The whole city is on edge after the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, by federal immigration agents. And this all escalated incredibly fast. I mean, look at this timeline. The shooting was Saturday morning. Almost right away, eyewitness videos started making the rounds that seemed to contradict the official story. By Monday, you had a massive citywide response, tens of thousands of people in a general strike and an economic blackout protesting not just the shooting, but ICE crackdowns in general. The pressure got so intense that by Tuesday, the Trump administration had already removed the state's top Border Patrol commander from his post. The reaction from local officials has been absolutely scathing. Minnesota's own Attorney General, Keith Ellison, came out and publicly accused the federal administration of mishandling the investigation. He said, and this is a direct quote, that their response feels like a cover-up. I mean, that's a huge statement, and it really signals a growing conflict between state and federal authorities. All right, turning now to the economy. The U.S. Federal Reserve is starting its first policy meeting of 2026 today, and there are some major decisions on the table that could ripple across markets all over the world. So, all eyes are on the Fed, but the consensus among economists is probably not much is going to happen just yet. The widespread expectation is that they'll hold the benchmark interest rate right where it is, in that 3.5 to 3.75% range. And of course, that rate affects everything from mortgages to business loans, so everyone watches it like a hawk. Now, this decision to hold steady is pretty interesting because it comes in direct defiance of very public pressure from the White House. President Trump has been openly calling for the Fed to cut rates to juice the economy. But after making 3 cuts late last year, it really looks like the central bank is determined to stay independent for now, and that's creating some visible tension. And to make all this economic uncertainty even worse, the risk of another partial government shutdown is growing. The deadline is the end of the week, and the whole thing is stuck on a dispute over funding for the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. Yep, the exact same agency at the heart of the protests in Minnesota. Let's shift our focus to the environment now, because there are 2 huge crises making headlines today, and honestly, they paint a pretty concerning picture of the planet's health. First, we have this really stark warning from the United Nations. A major report just came out declaring that the world is now entering an era of global water bankruptcy. And they use that term to signal a new permanent reality where depleted water sources are going to affect billions of people, impacting food, energy, everything. At the same time, a more immediate disaster is unfolding in South America. Absolutely devastating wildfires are just tearing through the Patagonia region in Argentina. Officials are warning that huge parts of this incredible ecosystem could be permanently destroyed, with one report grimly saying the land will be left as ashes. And for our last story, we're heading to Europe, where lawmakers are taking some pretty aggressive new steps to regulate social media and its impact on kids. Yeah, in a really significant move against big tech, France's lower house of parliament just passed a bill that would ban social media access for all children under 15. They're citing growing concerns over online bullying and the very real risks to children's mental health. This law could absolutely set a new and probably controversial precedent for the rest of the world. So let's do a quick recap. Geopolitical tensions are rising over a new Middle East peace plan. Civil unrest is growing in the U.S. after a fatal shooting by federal agents, and urgent environmental warnings on both water and fire are demanding global attention. And that concludes this news update. We'll be back with the very latest developments in 24 hours. If you want to stay on top of these stories, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.